Call the meeting to order. Roll call. We got excuse me, now, you're on the committee too? Right here?
Conway, yes.
Okay, Ken. All right, so everybody's here, roll call. Any other board members that don't look like that? So, why don't we just have a quick introduction? We've got maybe some new ones here. My name is Dan Hilbert. I've been on this committee. It's been a few years again, for a number of years. So I'm out of District 29 Beaver Dam.
I'm Christian. I've been on this committee since July. District 16, Village of Terra.
Roger Fravo, District 7, just got elected. Walt Conway, District 19.
Deliar, District 33 out of Beaver Dam.
Why don't we keep going?
Joe Shasha, Circuit Court Judge, Branch 3.
Brian Pfitzinger, presiding judge, Branch 1.
Stephanie Justman, the purchasing agent.
Ashley Sigmund, private citizen.
And I'm Sandy Bird, Judicial Assistant for Branch 1.
PJ?
PJ Schoebel, medical examiner.
Terra Mattheis, Child Support Director. Enright, Clerk of Courts.
Jennifer Smith, Family Court Services.
Neil Schmidt, Sheriff.
And I'm Klomberg, District Attorney. Good morning.
All right, thank you. So the first order, the next order of business would be to elect chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. We'll start with the chairman. Nominations are now,
How bad do you want it?
I take it.
You're nominated.
Seconded.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Nominations are now closed. I would accept it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Vice chairman. Who's interested in vice chairman? Nominations are now open. We got one volunteer.
I'll accept.
Nominations are now open for vice chair. Nominations are now open. Nominations are now closed. All in favor of Mr. Supervisor Conway, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Now, secretary, that's probably the hardest job, right? She takes the notes, so. Nominations are now open for secretary.
I'll take it, yeah.
There's one volunteer. Nominations are now open for secretary. Nominations are now open for secretary. Nominations are now closed. All in favor of Supervisor Yarrick as secretary, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered there. Approval of the minutes of the April 1st meeting.
So moved.
You all get one?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next meeting date, time. It's on here for June 3rd, 2022. Questions or comments or what you wish to do?
I don't have a problem with it. Are we going to continue to have it here? I don't have a problem with that either.
Certainly welcome.
Let's continue that until we're told otherwise. Okay, there's a motion, is there a second yet? Second from Supervisor Conway. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Discuss options for distribution of agenda and packet. It means if you want a hard copy or email or both, or how we have been doing it.
Hard copy.
Hard copy.
You can email it to me, I'll just print it out. Email's fine.
Doesn't matter to me as long as I have everybody's email address. on that one.
You should.
Okay.
You get the email? All right, we'll send them out. The packet is pretty thick. I usually like to have a hard copy when we get here. Sometimes the packet, on some committees are 20 pages. Rather than print them out, I just read them. And I'll have the hard copy here. Is that all right?
I've only done the minutes. I guess the packets are
That would be the minutes and
determined by,
packet things,
yeah, okay.
Any public comment?
Nothing?
I'm good.
Okay.
All right. District Attorney's Office, Clerk.
Well, we were asked to give an orientation for the department. I'm usually here with Mr. Barrington. Mr. Barrington's actually at a training conference right now. We usually do kind of a tag team, but so you'll see him a bit more as the months progress. Our office overview, we're 6 attorneys. We have 1 paralegal. There's 4 legal assistants, 1 legal analyst, and 2 victim witness coordinators, a total of 15 employees. What is important to understand about the DA's office, which is different than pretty much every other department in the county, is that we're a hybrid office. That means that our funding comes not just from the county, but also from the state. Myself and the assistant district attorneys are actually state employees. We don't work for the county. We're under the state's DOA umbrella. And the state provides our compensation and benefits. The state provides reimbursement also for a large portion of our victim witness funds. And then also our primary computer resources. The county provides some small resources related to purchasing, but we can get onto the accounting system, but all of our records management is done by the state. Everything else is essentially provided by the county. Our responsibility is defined in Chapter 978. Our primary responsibility is to represent the state of Wisconsin in prosecution of criminal offenses. And we also handle a small amount of civil traffic ordinance violations. It's primarily first offense over July and other traffic violations. There are some other duties, but they're very, very limited. A couple major highlights about us. We're the first office to achieve true paper on demand. I don't use the term paperless because there's still a lot of paper. But we do have full electronic practice. It has the benefit that we can access pretty much all of our file materials, pleadings, and actually practice anywhere in the world where we have an internet connection. And I've actually done warrants at my in-laws' kitchen table in Pennsylvania on every single time I go out there. It's a good excuse to divert away from other things, if you will. But it has been very handy, and we've been doing this that way for many, many years. This is not something new. We're the primary pilot county for any district attorney information technology changes, our computer systems. Mr. Barrington, the managing attorney here, is the head of the state's district attorney IT committee. That has been directly beneficial to the county. We get resources built the way we want. When we want something done or tweaked within the system, we get it and pretty much upon demand, and we get it the way we want, and then everyone else gets what we design. We actually have some things right now that are being built for us. We're also considered to be one of the leading counties in office management practice. Mr. Barrington and I have both been asked to teach multiple times by the Department of Justice for other district attorney's office and management practices. So that's the 10,000-foot overview, some of the highlights. Answer any questions about the office and our operation if you have any. All right. Then moving on, I just wanted to touch on training update. I bring this up just because it's kind of something we're kind of proud of. One of the things we have to do is maintain our law licenses. We have to be continuing legal education. There's a certain amount of credits that we have to do every year. Most of that is acquired through training programs that are done through the Department of Justice. They do multiple training conferences through the year. But the most significant one is the statewide prosecutors education and training program. It's for all. It's the DA's conference where all of the DAs in the state, as well as the criminal attorneys at DOJ, get together for training. That's happening in about 2 weeks, and then again, it happens again in the fall. Bob and I, the reason I bring it up, Bob and I have been asked to teach this year at the conference. We've actually taught multiple times over the years, but Bob is teaching in our treatment courts. Our treatment courts are very well respected in the state, and Bob is considered a leading expert. He's actually at this treatment court conference right now, and he's actually teaching at that conference as well. Then I'm actually going to be teaching ethics, which I'm very nervous about, not because the topic, but teaching a bunch of attorneys, attorney ethics. That's when you're teaching a bunch of people that feel they're all experts in the field already, really have your ducks in a row. But I'm very honored to have be asked to do it. We're teaching specifically about providing exculpatory evidence as it relates to police employment records. Apparently the training director feels I'm an expert on the topic. As an added benefit, because we are both teaching, we get our tuition and all expenses comped, and so that's a significant savings to the county in our training budget. We try to teach as much as we can so that we can get that benefit. We've actually received it many times. So any questions about training? Then I got to talk about a staffing update. We've been discussing with this committee for several years the fact that we're planning for significant attorney staffing changes during this time frame. We expect that to occur because we have always been, as long as I've been the DA for the last 12 years, one of the most experienced offices in the state. With that experience comes 10 retirements, and we have reached that point where we're going to expect some of our experienced staff to begin to retire. Gib Thompson, Assistant District Attorney, has been with the county for over 30 years. He's currently the most experienced drunk driving prosecutor in the state. Conservatively, he's conducted in excess of over 300 jury trials in his career. He has informed me of his retirement, and that's going to present some significant challenges to the office. The replacement's going to be difficult. Currently, there are dozens of unfilled assistant DA positions in the state. Many of those have gone unfilled for months without applicants. It's just a hard business right now to get recruits in. Now, on the flip side, I talked about our management practices and the leadership role that we've taken in the state. We have done that specifically for recruiting purposes, or largely for recruiting purposes. We do have candidates that are interested in coming here, but obviously landing them is going to be not a guaranteed thing. But we do have a number of candidates. But additionally, probably the biggest challenge that we're going to face immediately is, as I noted, Gib is an ADA and thus a state employee with state benefits. One of the most significant state benefits is sabbatical, termination, or exit leave. Assistant DAs, state employees can save up retirement year after year after year and hold it till the end of their career. And Mr. Thompson has earned that. Consequently, his last day in the office is going to be July 12th of this year. But he's going to remain in pay status, and I'm not going to be able to fill his position until sometime next February. So we're going to be short an attorney for about 7 months. Now, we have a plan in place for this. This is not unexpected, but obviously it's going to present a challenge, and I'll keep you informed as we progress through that. And we're going to be modifying some administrative duties of Bob and I are going to be returning to general caseloads for the interim. That's how we're going to deal with it. There's also some other minor tweaks in caseloads that we're going to be doing. We have another attorney that will be reaching her retirement date this summer. She too has a significant amount of exit leave saved up, but the hope is that her retirement won't occur until next year. But as we all know, life can cause changes, and so I will keep you informed as those things develop. There's always the prospect also of unforeseen leave because of a family or health situation. Can't control everything, and so we'll just keep you informed. And we do have a plan in place. But you should be aware that we are going to be down an attorney for 7 months. Any questions about that?
Is that going to interfere with your caseloads?
Well,
It'll hold them back?
I think, obviously there's going to be some issues, but we'll work with the judges. We do have a plan in place. place. One of the things is because Mr. Barrington and I, our caseloads are primarily high-level cases, homicides, he does major paper cases, but then we have all this administrative duty. We're going to go back and take on general caseloads. And so we think we can do this. There will probably be some hiccups, it's certainly a disruption, but it's not like we haven't been planning for this.
Well, I see in the news last night, Milwaukee County, 6,500 cases behind.
Yes, well, you know, and that's,
That's terrible.
I guess I can put that under the umbrella of our overview. And I think Judge Pfitzinger gets most of the credit for this. But when we get, that's mostly related to the pandemic. Counties in the state just shut down. We were pretty much the first county to get back up and running, if not the first, very, very close to the first. And
We were the first to officially open, but there's one county up north, and I absolutely don't remember what county, but they never shut down.
but I think
They weren't aware that there was a COVID issue.
But yeah, I mean, we're very proud of what we accomplished here between July of 2020 and July of 2021. This office did more jury trials during that time frame than we did in all of 2019 pre-pandemic. And that's, I think, something that we're incredibly proud of. Again, I did what I could to assist, but it was Judge Pfitzinger's design and leadership that really got us there. And so,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Clerk of Courts, Kelly.
It's my third day. So I'm new to all of this. It's nice to meet you all. So our orientation for our office, when we're fully staffed, we have 13 employees, 9 deputy clerks, a receptionist, an accountant, a chief deputy, and myself. Right now, we are down 2 deputy clerks, but we do have 2 hired, so we will be back up to full soon. But our chief job is to maintain the court record. All documents filed in the court come through our office, so we deal a lot with the public, helping them, DA's office, child support, anything that gets filed comes through, and then our job is to route it to the judges and work with the judges on what needs to happen next. We also keep a record of all court proceedings. We have clerks in court for every court hearing to take minutes. We collect money for fines and court costs, all that, and then disperse it at the end of the month. And restitution, things like that, we disperse out. And we manage the jury program. So we try to make sure we have enough jurors and feed them and bring them in, all that. So that's kind of an overview of our office. Any questions about that?
Short and sweet for the first one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then my other thing is a staffing update. Like I said, we've had 4 retirements since August. So we've had people move around. We've had 2 other people leave. So right now we are short 2 clerks, but we have someone starting May 16th and another one starting May 23rd. They both come with a lot of experience. And one comes from, she's been a legal assistant for several years, and the other is coming from probation and parole. She's been there for about 20 years, so they both have a lot of experience. And then we will have 1 more clerk opening, because one of our clerks is going to go upstairs to become a judicial assistant. So, but we do have some good qualified candidates. I think we can fill that pretty quick. And that's really all I have.
That's fine. Any questions? Thank you. Child support, Terra Mattheis.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, so meet some of you, some familiar faces. For orientation, I just kind of have some information about our program for some of you who aren't aware. So our agency assists participants with establishing paternity, setting child support orders, locating participants, reviewing or modifying existing court orders, enforcing orders from other states, establishing orders for children in kinship care or foster care, and ensuring that both parents provide health insurance, and then using enforcement tools to collect those child support applications. So our agency roughly has about 3,900 cases on average. We are a staff of 12. We have myself, 2 attorneys, 1 lead worker, 5 child support specialists, a financial specialist, and then 2 child support assistants. Like Kurt had indicated, our office as well is funded by state and federal incentive money, as well as some county levy money as well. Over our last fiscal year, our agency collected over $11 million. On average, we collect just a little under $1 million per month. Just some updates in our office, kind of things that have been going on. We are working to transition from paper files to electronic. This is a project that has taken quite a while. We're still working on that. In 2021, we participated in an IRS audit and passed that. In 2021, we also were awarded the Child Support Agency of the Year. In November of 21, we did convert from a call center to taking all of our customer calls in-house. So which then we also hired or added a new position for that. And then just this year, we were a pilot county for our document generation system interfacing with CCAP. So we're still a pilot for that and still working on that. And we have a staff member involved in the work group for that with the state. Just also providing some staffing updates. Like everybody else, we've had some people leave. We've had an attorney retire. We've had an enforcement specialist leave, a financial specialist left. So we have hired most of those positions. I will have a new child support assistant starting on May 16th, so hopefully we will be full staffed here at the end of the month. I just also included my contact information if you guys have any questions. And then also attached, I just provided this quarterly budget update. So I don't know if you want to take a peek at that. I don't have anything that's really out of line. The only thing that really kind of went over this year was our year to get new computers, and they were more than what was budgeted. Hopefully we'll be able to just make that up. Have any questions for me?
Did your call center, you were worried about that worked out all right for you?
Yes, it's working out well.
Good.
Unfortunately, because we've had people transition to different positions, we haven't had 2 full assistants for long. So I'm hoping that will be very helpful once they're filled.
Good.
Well, thank you. Next up, Circuit Courts, Brian Pfitzinger, Judge.
Morning.
Morning.
Son, played football at Oregon. I've had this mug basically for the last 14 years, so anyway, a lot of coffee is important. And it holds a lot of coffee. My doctor said only 1 cup per day.
Makes sense.
Anyway, well, good morning. The courts are made up of, like the district attorney's office, the funding comes from different sources. There's 4 judges in Dodge County, all 4 elected. They're elected to 6-year terms. Each of the judges has a court reporter. The court reporter and the judges' salaries are all paid, along with benefits and everything else, are all paid by the state of Wisconsin. Each of the judges has a judicial assistant. Judicial assistant is the person who keeps the judge's calendar, which is, Sandy is my judicial assistant, and as a services committee, Sandy comes and takes the minutes so that the elected secretary doesn't have to. But in addition to that, keeping the calendar, it's just her job is, and all the judicial assistants' job is to make sure that things flow nicely through the court. Any hiccup, any bump. This morning, when we walked in, one of my court reporter is Maria Mountain, and she is out sick. And we had a court reporter for this morning, because I have pleas starting at 10 o'clock. That court reporter is the branch 4 court reporter. She's called in sick this morning. So, Sandy, as you can see, is tapping her pencil because she's trying to figure out how to ultimately deal with the mess that is about to happen. Anyway, that's the judicial assistants, and those are county employees. We also have a court commissioner, a family court commissioner / law clerk. And you'll see as you get into the budgeting process, you'll see that we have, there's a line item for the court commissioner, and there's a line item for the law clerk. The court commissioner largely does family matters, and it's important. The family side of it, as some of you may know, if you're involved in a divorce, it's usually not a planned event. Your wife and her husband serves papers on you, and there's a bit of urgency because the papers indicate that she wants you thrown out of the house, and a lot of things need to happen in a very quick fashion. Well, that's where the court commissioner comes in. The court's calendar, our calendar, the judge's calendar is a cumbersome thing. Give you an example. My vacation, Sandy is all over me yesterday to do my vacation for 2023. So we're setting things out that far, and so we don't always have a lot of space to deal with the family court matters that are really urgent, absolutely urgent, and extremely important, obviously, because we're dealing with the financial issues, and we're also dealing with children's issues in the court. So there's a family court commissioner. He does, in addition to that, he does some law clerk work for the courts, some prison work. As you know, we have 4 prisons in Dodge County, so consequently, there's a lot of litigation that comes out of the prison system, and he handles a large portion of that for the judges, and also the jury instructions, the law that's given to the jury. He handles that responsibility as well. At least he roughs them up and gives them to the judge, and then the judge ultimately refines them with the assistance of the district attorney many times, and defense counsel. So that's the court commissioner. We also have, under our budget, is family court, and Smith is sitting there. We have two, what do you call
We're
yourselves?
2 counselors and then a part-time administration assistant.
Okay, and what their responsibility is to, number one, at least as far as the court's concerned, they deal with the mediation, which is huge. Sitting mom and dad down, trying to get them to agree on a schedule that works for their children. That's hugely important. I think it's maybe obvious what happens in divorces. If in fact the parties can agree on what happens with the kids, it's far better than if it goes to court and we all decide to dump every bit of dirty laundry and hatred on the judge. And then the judge makes a decision, which, and I'm not going to say that the decisions aren't good decisions, but we're involved with the case for maybe, ultimately we hear it for maybe 6-7 hours, parents live it. You know the nuances of your family and your kids. So, family court, first thing is mediation, second thing is they do studies. When in fact the parties can't agree and it has to come to the court, they do an in-depth study that helps the court, provides a tremendous amount of information about the family so that the court can make a good decision. As I said, you're presenting in the court for maybe up to 6, maybe 12 hours of court time. You can't present every aspect of your family, every aspect of your life as a parent, and every aspect of your children's lives. Just absolutely can't. So that's one of the big services that the family court does. The family court system in Dodge County is by far the best in the state. We're proud of that. You guys should be proud of having that, because about 99% of our cases never go to a trial, and that's significant, because you're not putting these kids through the trauma of a trial. You're not putting the parents through the mess that is the trial. So that is a huge part of the court system. We have the Register of Probate's office. There's 2 employees there, the Register of Probate and the Deputy Register of Probate, that they handle there's a tremendous amount that comes in through them, including the mental commitments, which is a significant part of what we have to deal with, and also a significant amount of guardianships, and this is a huge thing that we've seen recently, is the increase in guardianships where mom and dad can't handle raising their children, so you end up with grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, niece, nephew. Somebody steps in and tries to raise the children because dad's in prison and mom's addicted to heroin, and there we sit. So that all happens through the Register of Probate's office, along with some adoptions. There's a lot of other things that go into that. You'll see also in your budget, we have 4 contract guardian ad litems. That's attorneys who act on behalf of the children. That's, in many cases, we're required to appoint an attorney. We contract with our guardian ad litems because it's cheaper. Having 4 contracted guardian ad litems, we can reduce the amount that we pay to them because they're contracted. If we had to go out and just hire them, it's $100. The Supreme Court has said $100 an hour. So I think that right now we're paying 65, 68. So we're paying less than what we would pay come out if we had to contract for it, or if we had to hire guardian ad litems. And we also you'll also see court-appointed attorneys. The understanding a criminal case, the public defender appoints many attorneys. Private attorneys are hired by people, but there's people that fall into the middle of the whole mess. That's where the court-appointed attorneys come in, and they're where the person is indigent, but still, or partially indigent, but doesn't qualify for public defender representation. So there's people that to hire an attorney, if you hire an attorney today for drunk driving, probably at a minimum, you're looking at $3,000. So there's a significant group that are working, but don't have the $3,000 to pony up to, and that's where the contract court-appointed attorneys come in. So those are, and we set payment plans for them. The money is collected through the clerk of court's office. And we're, I think, it's an in and out on the budget. We pay, again, though, by contracting with these attorneys, we save the county money rather than going outside and appointing at $100 an hour. So, anyway, then we have, in addition, you'll see bailiffs. There's two aspects of court security. One is the bailiffs, which are usually retired. Everybody is retired. They assist the court, helping to marshal people in, helping to help get paper circulated, all sorts of responsibilities. And they're really the eyes. They watch what goes on in the court, and if necessary, then they contact court security, which is under the sheriff's. That's the guys that you saw as you came through the door. Those are not under the court's budget. That's the court's, you probably figured out from my dissertation that our budget is people. And that's very little in our budget has to do with anything other than people. We don't run this building. We don't. The only significant expense we've had in the last 10 years is $650,000 we put into the courtrooms to make them video and to make them video accessible, and also to improve the sound system. So, and that's you'll see there's also, as you start to read through the budget, you're going to see an $18,000 expense. That's the warranty on that $650,000 system that we have. So that's the courts. As I said, we're totally not exciting. We have very little turnover. We have, I think, the first turnover in I don't even know how long. Sarah Haig, the clerk of courts, poached our people and stole, ruthlessly stole one of our good employees to go downstairs. But we then, in full retribution, we stole one of their employees to come upstairs. So we can't complain too loud. And just to touch on what Kurt was saying, as far as the courts, you're hearing all these backlog stories, and backlog stories are not confined to Milwaukee and Dane. If you go to Columbia County, you're going to find a monster backlog, absolute monster backlog, and that's because they didn't open the door.
14 or 15 months, no trials.
Right. They didn't open the doors. And it was not, I get the credit, but I really don't deserve the credit. It was the entire court system, for everybody from the bailiffs to the clerks to the district attorneys to the public defender. They all agreed to open the door. When the Supreme Court said, because they controlled this whole thing, when the Supreme Court said, you can open the doors of the court if you have a safety plan in place. We were the first safety plan that was approved by the chief judge for this district, and ultimately was approved because it was the first. It actually went to the Supreme Court and they approved it, and it was the model that was ultimately used for a lot of the other counties to get them to reopen. Some counties simply didn't want to reopen for whatever reason, but we felt, all of the stakeholders and everything, felt that we have a responsibility to the people, and delaying resolution. Criminal cases don't get better with age. Family cases don't get better with age, and people have a right to have things heard. We had to make sure that it was done safely, which we did, and we let's go. I think we opened the door in June, and I think June 3rd, the Supreme Court said we would open, and I think we opened on June 7th or 8th or somewhere right around there, so we take our responsibility to people very seriously. And so that's the story. Questions? There you go.
Thanks for the report. Medical examiner.
Business there is good.
That's the chair's report.
Good morning. Again, I'm PJ, I'm a medical examiner. Just a brief overview of my office. I'm the office. We're responsible for death investigation in the county. That includes any deaths that occur in the county or as a result of incidents that occur in the county. So if there's a motor vehicle crash, for instance, and the person gets taken to UW, we're still involved. We're also involved for any time someone is cremated, which is a very popular, I want to say that, form of disposition. We also examine everybody prior to being cremated. That accounts for more than 50% of everyone for their funeral choices, so we do that. More than 1,000 people die in the county every year, some years over, probably more than 1,200. And not all deaths get reported to the office. The majority do, I would say probably 80 to 90%. So we have a fairly large caseload of those deaths that do get reported. Not all are required to be reported by law. And not all people who pass away are required to have an autopsy. That's sometimes kind of a misconception of my office. So we only order autopsies in those cases where we feel, we do forensic autopsies, where we feel it's necessary to determine the cause of death or generally answer some kind of a legal question. Those would be certain types of accidental deaths, drug overdoses, or homicides, things of that nature. We also are called to the prisons because we do have 4 state prisons in the county, as you may know, but the state infirmary is in the county. So we have inmates from all over the state who come to Dodge County, and unfortunately those gentlemen pass away. They have terminal illnesses, and those are considered a death in custody, and medical examiner's office is called for a death investigation, and under state statute, we are required to do an autopsy. So if these gentlemen pass away, say from cancer, we still do an autopsy on them. We're staffed by, currently, there's me. I have a chief deputy medical examiner, 1 full-time deputy medical examiner, and I have a space for, I have a pool of on-call deputy medical examiners. Currently, where I can have a maximum of 4. Currently, I have 2. I've made a tentative offer to another person, and which will put me up to 3, obviously. And then I have a part-time fiscal assistant who's our administrative person, handles all the secretarial affairs, our billing, records, things like that. We do provide 24/7 coverage to the office. That's me, death investigation. Yeah.
Does the state help with cover the cost of any of the exams done as a result of the infirmary?
Yes. So if the prison system or Department of Correction pays for those, they pay for associated costs. Yeah, that's a good question. I forgot to mention that. Any other questions?
As I see, it's listed Green Lake Initiative.
Yep, I was gonna get to that. I just gonna break up the questions.
Yes, some new people here, you might want to explain what that's all about before we get into.
The Green Lake Initiative?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to do that as a separate topic, so.
Gotcha.
So, the Green Lake Initiative, back in January, Green Lake County approached us. We didn't approach them, I just want to make sure they approached us. They had a coroner, over the past couple of years, their coroner retired. And then they got a new coroner. A new coroner was appointed by the governor, and then Dan, that was his name, died unexpectedly. Since that time, they have no applications for a coroner, but they decided to switch to a medical examiner system. A county can either have a coroner or a medical examiner system. They've decided to switch to a medical examiner system. And what they've asked us to do is possibly provide services for them if they switch to a medical examiner system. Back in March, I believe it was, we provided them with some numbers, said, if we do provide them services, you have to pay for all of the associated costs. This is what, you have to do it. And this is what it would cost. I was up there in March, I gave them a short presentation, not about that. I gave them a presentation about what I feel are the advantages of a medical examiner system and what that system would provide for them. They have the numbers. They are going to look at them, discuss them. I just recently heard a board supervisor mention in the executive committee the other day that they may also be considering a partnership with Marquette County. But their board, of course, was recently elected, and all of their committees were reappointed, and so they're going to discuss it, what they're going to do. They have to do whatever's right for them. I'm not shilling for anything. I just wanted to get to it. That's really all I have on Green Lake County. But I do kind of come every month and I just say, something and something.
Yeah, that's fine, thank you.
We're not. That's it.
Okay, any more?
Usually I don't really say a lot.
All right. Would you have to hire a Green Lake or to use?
So my hope would be that our office would only, that I would just administer, and that I would be able to find somebody in Green Lake County to be a deputy and just be, to do the actual investigation. If they weren't, then we would have to kind of figure out how we would provide, the investigative services. What we would try and do is start that recruitment now, because they couldn't switch to a medical examiner system until January of next year. That's when the coroner's term would end. So we would say, okay, we're going to start the recruitment process now for deputies and then help you train them so that January 1st, they would be, or whatever it is, would be able to hit the ground running.
What's the upside for Dodge? Is there an upside? Just being nice neighbors or
Just kind of be a nice neighbor. We're not going to gain a lot of, we're not going to gain money. We're not trying to do this. It would just be, my hope would also be that this wouldn't be a long-term thing, that we just kind of help them get their, get it up and running.
So if it happens,
If,
it happens, it'll stand up on 1 January of 23. And it's the numbers you give them are revenue neutral to the county,
well.
give or take.
Yeah, so that's so hard to predict. And that's one of the things, like, when I kind of present to you, is like, I can't predict what death, I mean, no one can. I can't predict what deaths are gonna occur. Well, yeah. That's usually what I say.
He knows.
Right, exactly, that's usually what I say. So all I can do is I can look at historical data. Green Lake County generally has only about 250 people who die annually, okay? In general, almost all of those people get reported to Green Lake County. So what I do, and of course there's a little variation, plus or minus. So what I do is I say, okay, let's say 250 people die every year. What is that gonna cost us to do this? Looking at how many autopsies, I would say, well, we do maybe 25 autopsies or 30 autopsies, somewhere in there. What would that cost? How many of these cases would we actually have to respond to? How many would we be able to just clear by a phone call, without talking to a doctor or a hospice nurse or something?
Terra, you're budgeting on what you assume would be.
Yeah, so
the assumptions, the numbers as they are right now.
Yeah, so, and that's kind of like how I prepare my budget. I go, okay, our numbers vary a lot more, we're a lot larger county, I mean, they're not, and I don't know why, but their numbers really stick around 250 every year. Their variation is like, pretty narrow, but their population is narrow.
Okay, thanks, BJ.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The sheriff's.
Where do I start? Sheriff's Office has a great deal of responsibility, I think, that a lot of people don't really recognize. And so I figured I would start today by, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to start with statute. The responsibilities for the sheriff are actually derived, actually not from statute, they're actually derived from the Constitution. We have constitutional elected officials within the county, the judges, the DAs, clerk of courts, the clerk, the sheriff. And so our authority is actually derived from the Constitution itself. But there are duties that are defined under common law through the Constitution, but then there are additional duties that are more defined in state statute, and that's state statute is chapter 59, if you ever need some reading materials, which you sit tonight. And I'm going to go through a couple of them, just so you have just a basic idea of what the sheriff's responsibilities are. The first one is take the charge and custody of the jail maintained by the county. A jail in Wisconsin cannot be privatized. It is statutorily responsibility of the sheriff. And so 71 of the 72 counties in the state of Wisconsin have a jail, Menominee being the only one that does not. I believe they share with another county. So that's the first one, and that's a big one. The second one is keep a true and exact record of all the prisoners and so on and so forth. That goes with maintaining the jail. Attending upon the circuit court, as Judge Pfitzinger alluded to earlier, that is the sheriff's responsibility to do that. And I'm going to go through the different divisions and explain that a little bit. Personally or by undersheriffs or deputies, serve and execute all processes, writs, precepts, orders issued and made law by lawful authority, which are delivered to the sheriff. So eviction notices and other court processes, most of which come from the courts themselves, but certainly from the public as well. There's some other ones in here, conducting operations in the county related to the rescue of human beings and recovery of bodies in bodies of water. The sheriff is responsible for all bodies of water within the county, not any other municipality or any other authority. Those are all subsections of one statute. This is also another big one. Peace and maintenance powers and duties of peace officers. The sheriff and their undersheriffs and deputies shall keep and preserve the peace in their respective counties and quiet and suppress all affrays, routs, riots, unlawful assemblies, and insurrections. That is a very broad statement. It's basically the law enforcement services which we provide. And if things get out of hand, regardless of where it occurs in the county, it's the sheriff's responsibility to make sure that those things are taken care of. Very important statute. Those are the highlights of the statute. The Sheriff's Office has a number of different divisions. Obviously, the most public-facing division is our Patrol Division. Patrol Division made up of 3 shifts, and we have about 36-ish patrol deputies and sergeants. And also we have a drug task force that works with that. What you may not know is that we don't have a ton of coverage from the Sheriff's Office around the county. We have 4 quadrants, which we assign a deputy to each quadrant. And our minimum staffing for our patrol staff right now is 4 on day shift, 4 on third shift, and 5 on second shift. It's been that way for a while. I'd love to bump that up, but certainly there are costs that go along with bumping those.
500 early, 4 days, 5 early, 4 late.
Yeah. So I've got, and typically on our second shift, it's 4 patrol deputies and a sergeant is the typical structure there. So you've got that sergeant who's responsible for 800 square, or almost 900 square miles of Dodge County and almost 88,000 people. Of course, we have the other municipalities, the police departments around the county as well, that take care of the municipalities. But as you may or may not know, the sheriff has responsibilities throughout the county, whether that's in the city, in a village, in the townships, everywhere within the county falls under the law enforcement protection of the sheriff. And we certainly assist those other agencies as is needed, or when they are taxed, our staff will go in and take some of the complaints. If there's conflict of interest, we'll go in and take care of some of those complaints within the cities, villages, whatever needs to be done there as well. So they are busy. And trying to be proactive on top of taking the reactive calls for service is certainly not easy to do, but they're doing a heck of a job. One of our patrol deputies I always like to highlight, he's one of our third shift guys. Over the last 2 years, he's averaged 92.5 OWIs per year, 93 in 1 year and 92 the next. And the 92 year, he was gone for 5 weeks to become a drug recognition expert. But that's one person, that many OWIs. That's proactive work out there, and he's reducing fatalities and things like that. So that's Patrol Division. Those who dispatch our Patrol Division, the communication staff, we have 17 dispatchers. One of them takes care of warrants mainly, who are working. We have minimum of 3 dispatchers on at all times. And they cover not only our dispatch service for the Sheriff's Office, but they do all police departments, all fire. They set off the tornado sirens. They're sending out notifications if we have an IPAWS alert, or otherwise known as those alerts, an Amber Alert type thing. They send those types of things out to the county. They will push out the Amber Alerts to Madison to get those pushed out. Multi-service, basically whatever we need, that's who we're calling, and so they've got a huge responsibility in front of them. We recently, a year and a half ago, switched them over to 12-hour shifts, which upped our staffing in there. We had, at night, on Monday through Thursday, we only had 2 people in there for 4 hours every week. And so now, because of the 12-hour shifts, we got a little extra coverage. We've got 3 24/7, which is adequate at most times. When we have the major incidents that come in, we have a critical incident team that comes in and supplements. But as long as we don't have people off, we'll have 4 people working in there. So that I think is going really, really well as far as staffing. Patrolling, I would love to see some more there, but I think dispatch, well, they can always use more, but I think we're in a really good spot there.
I made a list, but they handle all of the communication for example, local fire departments in the area, and the 911 telecommunicators, and so on and so forth.
Take all the 911 calls, they take all the non-emergency calls from all police and fire agencies throughout the county. During the daytime, some of those agencies may get some of those administrative calls into their agencies, but most of the time they come to us first, and they're the first ones to receive all the phone calls.
That also includes all the other LE in the community.
Yes. Yeah. We are the only PSAP here in communication, public safety answering point in Dodge County. We're the only communication. Waupun, Hartford, Waupun goes to Fond du Lac. Hartford has their own dispatch center. Watertown has their own dispatch center. But those are, Hartford's got 6 people in Dodge County, and some manufacturing, and Watertown, there's about 1/3 of Watertown is in Dodge County, a little bit less than that. So those are the only areas in the county that are not covered by our dispatch center. And they also take text to 911, so you can text 911 as well to our dispatch centers.
They also do after-hours warrants for us. They act as the court record maker. So last night, I had called at 1 in the morning to do a search warrant, and the judge and the dispatcher on the phone, the dispatcher takes the reporting, testimony, very useful system. So there's a lot of duties that they do that are somewhat non-traditional.
They're that first line of defense when calling a judge in the middle of the night, because nobody wants to wake a judge up. So, you usually gotta give them a little bit to get their wits about, right? So. That's right.
Nobody cares about calling the DA.
So that's dispatch. The largest area, the largest responsibility we have is the jail. And we have a very complex jail. It's been in place as is since 2000, 2001 when it was built and opened. When the building was built, the intent there was to do contracting with state inmates. I'll tell you, the contracting with state inmates is not a great venture to get into because of the reimbursement rate. Their reimbursement rate is only $51.46. We and a lot of the counties around the state will love that because it does generate some revenue for them. For us, it wouldn't generate a ton of revenue. We actually contract more with our federal partners. We have a contract with the U.S. Marshal Service, and the immigration piggybacks on that contract. So the U.S. Marshal is actually our primary source of contracting. We contract at $86 a day. So every inmate that we bring in is from them is generating offsetting tax base to the residents. We house in our facility your typical people that are arrested by any of the law enforcement in Dodge County. I have to take all of those people in. We house probation holds and parole holds. So if somebody violates a condition of integration and parole, they are either put in a short-term sanction or it might be a long-term process until they're revoked and sent back to prison. We house, we talked about the marshals and the immigration. There are, blank in the name, Bureau of Prisons houses some here. There are time to time we pick up people from other counties on warrants and they sit here until they're transferred to those other counties, similar to what they would do here. We also have inmates who are waiting to go to prison. And over the last year during the pandemic, that became a real problem for a lot of places around the state. We've been able to work with the Department of Corrections to eliminate that backlog. We weren't too bad here. The DOC secretary, that was definitely that squeaky wheel. And he made sure he emptied us out and got our people to Dodge, but that was a real problem around the state. There were, I want to say at one point, 1,500 to close to 2,000 inmates that are the responsibility of the states that were in the sheriff's different jails around the state, and we've been able to reduce that backlog down to about 50 or 60, which is where it should be. So we house them until they're taken by the state as well. Our jail just recently went to 12-hour shifts, and so that did help assist us with some of our staffing issues and provided additional staffing. We were on a 37.5-hour work week, which has been that way forever, and now it's a 40-hour work week that they're on, which gave us additional staffing within the facility, and we'll talk about some of those things in the staffing update in a little bit. But very, very complex. We go through multiple inspections every year. From the marshals, from immigration, and the state DOC comes in and does inspections as well. And we always have very, very small, minor things on ours, and we always get high praise from our inspectors. And definitely kudos to our maintenance department. Every inspector that comes in, I cannot believe how clean that jail is. And I know you've been in there. I don't think, Paul, you haven't been in there. Some of you guys have been in that jail, and it is a very clean facility as it relates to jails. Oh, you haven't been. We got to get you in there. That's right. And certainly.
Let's be clear, we mean division.
Yeah.
Just to all your division.
That's what I just wanted to clarify for everybody.
Just to
I
visit, yeah.
Let's come to
I've been
visit.
there.
Yes, yeah, no, we did some tours earlier this spring, and I forgot to do on that, but certainly offer that to everybody if you want to take some tours of the facility. We can do that. Really, really nice facility. Going back over to that side of the street, the detectives. We have detectives that do investigations around the county and everything from burglary to homicides. Drug homicides to intentional homicides. We've done them, and they're very, very good. Very proud of the work that they are doing, the teamwork from all of our staff. It's been unbelievable the last several years, the level of teamwork where everybody's at right now. We mentioned the prisons. We investigate all incidents, not all incidents. There's a level of what they contact us, but we investigate crimes that happen in the prisons. So we are investigating inmates in DOC. And yes, we are getting reimbursed. We are getting reimbursed from the state for that time in there. That's a full-time detective that's handling all 4 prisons. And you can imagine that with 2 of them being maximum security prisons, they're busy. So some of our other detectives jump in to do some of that work as well. Attending on the court, we have our court security. That's not really attending on the court so much. It is, but it isn't. That's just maintaining security at the front entry. But we have 6 part-timers right now down there doing court security. 2 on some days, 3 on other days, maintaining security within this building. They've got a lot of responsibilities from screening everybody in to the judge needs somebody taken into custody to we've got somebody that's gotten out of control. And so that they are the ones that are coming in to handle those things within the courts. Other things that we do attend upon the courts. I am responsible for all transports to and from the courts if they're in another facility, a mental health facility, in a jail, in prison. So we are responsible for doing that. We do some of those transports ourselves. We also have a contracted service that assists us with some of those, and contracted services ready transports. And they have been, that contract actually saved the county significant dollars because of the amount of dollars spent on personnel and vehicles and so forth when we entered into that contract with them. So they manage all that, but that's my responsibility to make sure that those things get done as well. Talked about a little bit about all the writs, civil process. That's still attending upon the court, but as statutorily, I need to make sure we have that served as well. I have 2 deputies that go out and serve all those paperwork across the county, whether that's evicting people from their homes or just basic paper service, all kinds of different writs and paper service that we have to do, and there are a lot of them that come through the office. I have certainly enough for 1 full-timer. We've got 2 of them doing that duties. It's kind of one on a full-time basis and the other one assists on the weekends. It's kind of the structure that we've got laid out right now. It's going very well. So that is just scratching the surface of all of the things that we have. We've got almost it was 175, 880-ish employees that we're responsible for. So it's a great relationship to make sure that we have between our committee and the sheriff. Of course, the responsibilities for operations rest with the sheriff, but coming for budgetary items, wages, benefits, people, those are things where we work with you guys to get those things accomplished. So, any questions about operations?
Question on dispatch. Remember Mark, the old radio man?
Yeah.
And him and myself were on a committee, a statewide committee. They were talking about changing everything from county level to state level. Did that ever go anywhere, or is that dead?
There is a WISCOM study. That's more. Right. WISCOM is just the radio, and that is a system separate from our own. They're doing another process right now for that. WISCOM is the statewide radio system for interoperability. If you remember, after 9/11, we were all supposed to be interoperable. I'm sure you know that very well. And here we are in 2020.
Still are.
It's 2022, and we're still very, very much broken. We have a lot of different systems around the state. That system isn't even built to be a on-your-hip portable type system. It's in your squad to work between agencies, which, yeah, that would be beneficial, but if you don't have that portable coverage, it's still not going to get you where we actually need to be. They're looking at, just at a $6.5 million request for the RFP, process for that. And then once that comes back, it's gonna be multiple years of $20 million a year to get this done. So I don't anticipate it getting done anytime soon. And then these are going to be the future of our radio communications. And I've been preaching it to them, telling them, you gotta make sure you're gonna build this in. If you're gonna do it, don't do it wrong the first time, or the second time, I should say, because they did it wrong the first time. So a lot of money there that they're discussing, and but it's still gonna be a local control thing. We're still gonna have to have our own radio system, which we have a very good one. I don't have high hopes for anything happening at the state level there.
Not for a lot of years.
Good question.
What is the jail staffing?
We'll get to that here in the staffing update that I've got here coming shortly. We'll talk about that.
So of 180 employees, how many are sworn?
There is about, that number is 60, it's between 60 and 70.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the operations themselves before I get into the other topics? Give me a call if you got anything later. Contract update and discussion. I'm going to give you a little bit of an update because a couple of you weren't here. We do have one contract for law enforcement services within the county, and that's with the Village of Breesville. That contract that started in January 1st, going extremely well. The number of calls outside of our contract time has plummeted significantly. The satisfaction we're getting from those residents within the village is high. And it's 10 hours a week. It's not a huge amount of time that we're spending there, but it's that presence that's in the community. They're seeing a squad car, they're seeing them get out and do building checks, and that is creating that kind of that halo effect. When are they gonna be here? And we're seeing a reduction in those other incidents as a result. And so very, very positive things going on there. We don't have any other contracting discussion to bring up to you at this point. This is a standing item agenda. You can certainly make that decision if you want to continue to be a standing item agenda. There isn't a whole lot of updates that I really haven't given updates on this. Maybe this is probably maybe the second time that I've given an update since we got it going on it.
The ones like Terra and some other places, where that's all pretty much cooled down.
They're not done, they're just not doing anything with them. So we've given presentations to Teresa, Lamira. Eustisford gave one, and they opted to go in a different direction. Gave a presentation on just ordinance enforcement in the village of Kleiman. Have had others that have reached out and asked, but we haven't had any. At this point, there's really no discussion there. And I wouldn't be bringing anything back to the committee until we get something that would actually be actionable. Till we get there, there's no need to really get out in front of anything until they contact us again. So that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you.
So up to you if you want to continue with that every month. We can certainly get that on there. The next one is also a standing committee agenda item. That's a staffing, recruitment, or retention discussion. Great question about the jail, and things are looking up. We announced last month that our intent is to open H pod, the pod that's closed on July 11th, right? I believe it's July 11th. And we're still on track to do that. Things are going really, really well. We are currently at 8 employees short in the jail. We were at 14 at one point. But I just we just recruited a background. I'm looking at another background today. We just had another employee come back that left us earlier in the year, went to part-time, came back to full-time, and that number's down to 7, I believe, and we should be down to 6 after this next one. So that's a really good thing. We're actually in a really good spot, and with 12-hour shifts, being down 4 people is 1 person off of each shift, which is not a huge drain. We have, so I'll just go through the numbers I have here again. 1 full-time, like I just talked about, he's doing a psychological here in a couple weeks. We have a part-timer that had a psychological earlier this week. So that's 2 part-timers that we're going to be hiring on June 1st or before, which will be a huge help. We have 2 full-timers in background. We have 5 full-time people who we've done interviews on, and we're doing background on them as well. And we have 5 applications that we're currently reviewing. So the last couple of weeks have been very productive. And if all goes well, in a perfect world, we could get all of those positions filled relatively quickly, but backgrounds take a while. Psychologicals have been difficult to get scheduled. So it's going to be a bit, but July 11th, we're going to be fine. As it is, we only had two shifts of overtime that we had to order filled for the month of May, which is great. It's well below where we were at, and ordering shifts in law enforcement field, that's common. But we really don't have to do much of that at all. It's really been minimal. People are not taking overtime. With the 12-hour shifts, there was a lot of, how is this going to work? We're not sure about this. We're finding that some of the most dead set against it are, I really like these weekends off. I really like the amount of time off, and it's really going well. And some of the people that were the most opposed to it are coming around saying, I'm really glad. And I just had one of the lieutenants tell me that if you were to go and take it away from them now, there'd be a mutiny. They're really, really enjoying, especially this every other weekend off, which in the past, they had Friday, Saturday off every 6 weeks. And so it's really going in a positive direction. Morale is going through the roof. Yeah, we've got a couple things here and there that we've got to work through, but things are going really, really well. The teamwork, the team mentality has been phenomenal. These shortages here are going to be, I think, short-lived. We don't have much for anticipated retirements coming, which, as you recall, last year, we had a lot of people who were at that 20-year mark. They started in 2000, hit that 20, 21-year mark, and all of a sudden, everybody's at that point, okay, I'm at that point, I don't want to go to 12-hour shifts, and we had a large contingent decide to retire. We don't have that anymore. We don't have those really anywhere. The only other vacancy that I have right now is one patrol vacancy, which we had somebody slated for and had a conditional offer out, and then the wages were not where they needed to be because we were trying to bring them from Brown Deer. And Brown Deer paid significantly more, and that was the only reason we didn't take that conditional offer, because of those wages. Which our patrol wages are decent. It just doesn't match up with Milwaukee, Waukesha wages. So that was, otherwise we would have been full in our patrol division. Otherwise, everywhere else, other than part-time positions, everywhere else our full-timers is full, and staffing is going very, very well. For your information, we do still have the $6,000 sign-on bonus until such point as the positions in the jail are filled, or a 6-month review in October. And those sign-on bonuses come right from the vacant positions that are in our budget this year. It isn't additional monies that were allocated, it's from the monies that were already budgeted for those positions when they were filled, so it's not additional funds that are coming from the board. So that's the staffing and the recruitment update. We've got any questions on that?
What are those bonuses? Those $6,000 bonuses?
Over 2 years.
Over 2 years.
Over 2 years.
Over 2 years.
Yep. The HR committee set that when they did them for Clearview. They laid out a policy, they approved it for Clearview, and then after that, they approved it for the correctional officers as well. It's heavily weighted on the back end in the second year. Make sure people stick around. If they don't, they have to pay that back if they leave in 2 years.
I guess what I meant to ask is, what is the daily staffing for your gym?
Okay, great question. Just grab it here quick for you, it'd be a lot easier, right? I'm going to give you an estimate. It's about 14 during the week, and I believe 13 on the weekends.
That's good enough.
At night, at between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., I believe it drops to 10.
Thank you. That's
Sure. Other questions on staff? Okay. I have one last thing for you, and that's just a preliminary discussion on the 2023 budgeted position changes for the sheriff's office. I'm bringing it to you here today for letting you know, next month I plan to have some details for you. If you'd like to take action next month, you can. If you don't want to, we can push it off till July. July is the county board meeting, we have to have it ready for the July county board meeting. So that's why we're at the timeline we're at on that. They're really very minimal changes. The first one, we have a part-time support staff person, which I don't know why it was ever identified as a separate position outside of our normal administrative support staff. But it is. It's got its own job description, and really there's no need for it. It's on a miscellaneous wage scale, so it's not on the compensation plan. So every time everybody else gets moved, you have to go and change the miscellaneous compensation plan. What we would like to do is eliminate that position and simply recreate it as part-time administrative support. Just it's getting rid of that job description that is just out there. It's an outlier, and put it where it belongs in the administrative support. Then it falls under step one. It always falls under step one of that plan, under the support staff. And then you don't have to go back and make those changes to the miscellaneous wage scale. It just tracks with the rest of the administrative support staff, and that position stays at step one. There aren't increases like the rest of them. It just stays at step one. So that's the first one we are looking to do, just to try and clean up the structure a little bit. It has been a position, the person in that position, got a little bit frustrated because that one it didn't get left behind, but it did. It appeared that we did, but we had to finish everything else first at the county board level and then go back and catch that up. And when you're in those positions, you don't want to feel like, am I going to get forgotten? So we just want to clean that up. Any questions or issues about that at all that I should address, or information you want before I bring it to you next month?
Go ahead.
Okay. The second one, under the matrix study, and the matrix study for both of you is on my homepage, DodgeCountySheriff.com, or the homepage, click on Sheriff. The matrix study that was done in 2018, I believe it was finished in 2019, somewhere in that time frame, analyzed the staffing throughout the sheriff's office. And one issue that we were never able to correct at the time was in the detective area. The lieutenant is in charge of the drug task force, the background investigators, and all of the detectives, which is a lot of people. And the span of control there is too vast for one person to be able to do. That person is just buried. And we were never able to correct that because the detectives and the sergeants were in the same pay scale in the contract. So you couldn't create that sergeant like there should be in between there as a first level supervisor to maintain that span of control. And the HR committee with the association in agreement, and they separated those two. The patrol sergeant is now slightly paid, compensated slightly higher than what the detectives are, which is where it should be at that supervisory level. What we would like to do is eliminate one detective and create one sergeant for the detective division. That sergeant would still be responsible for the caseload, but then would have supervisory responsibilities to assist that lieutenant in that position to greatly spread out that span of control. And next month, what I'd like to do is I'll have for you exactly how much that lieutenant has for responsibility. And that's just people. He's also our training lieutenant. He manages organizing all the training. He's our fleet lieutenant. We've got a lot of other responsibilities outside of the personnel. So we need to try and find that way to put that first line supervisor in there so that sergeant can then take care of the day-to-day operations in that detective bureau while still maintaining a caseload. And the increase there is pretty minimal for any kind of fiscal impact. It's the difference, basically the difference between the wages of the sergeant and the wages of the detective, which isn't a lot there. So my plan is to have, if I don't have the resolution for you next time, I want to at least have for you the breakdown of the responsibility, what we're looking to do, along with the fiscal impact, so that you can see that at a very minimum next month, and then we'll go from there. So, any initial questions? Just an introduction here. That's all it is. Any other initial questions at all on that? Okay, sounds good.
All right.
All right?
That's all I have.
Well, I think it gets us through everything. Anybody, a motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor, say aye.
Uh,
We're adjourned. 9:03.